Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Trilbee, and today we do things a little bit differently. The footage you're watching right now is me playing Five Nights at Freddy's on my laptop. I'm not exactly good at the game, but I just thought I'd warn you now that the animatronics can jump out of nowhere, but I will not be playing the sound of the gameplay. I know a lot of people comment on videos related to Five Nights at Freddy's asking if there are jump scares so that it's safe to watch, so I'll just open this video by saying that there will be no jump scares. Okay, and with that, let's talk about Five Nights at Freddy's, which is a highly successful independent game franchise with 3 installments and a 4th one on the way, despite the 3rd game purporting itself to be the end of the franchise. But the 4th game now bears the subtitle The Final Chapter, and if the horror genre itself is any indication, the word final normally equates to we've barely even begun. But I'm not here to talk about the games themselves. This is a movie related channel, so why am I bringing the franchise up? Well, the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's has been what kept the franchise alive amongst its rabid fanbase between releases, as the premise of fast food animatronics coming alive at night to come and get you is an inherently creepy premise, which is exacerbated by the reams of backstory that are hinted throughout the series. However, the gameplay itself isn't particularly compelling and rather a means to make you jump in your seat, so a while ago I started mulling over how you could turn this video game franchise into a compelling movie. I was thinking about this for a while. However, in April, Warner Brothers announced that they had acquired the rights to the franchise to make a movie, but this topic is something that I've been considering long before that announcement was made. In fact, in early 2015, I did a poll on my Facebook group asking viewers to vote on editorials that they would like to see next, and the video that you're watching now was the winner by a substantial margin. Okay, so let's talk about making this game work as a narrative-driven film. Hopefully Warner Brothers is listening. The first thing we need to focus on is the protagonist of the movie. Just why the hell would this security guard spend 5 nights in this place when the animatronics are so obviously trying to kill him or her? The player is even warned early on by the phone guy that they'll be stuffed into an empty suit if they get caught. I don't know about you, but if I was that guard, I would be out of that place faster than a speeding bullet after I heard that. So we need a reason as to why the protagonist is there. Male or female, it doesn't matter which, but the security guard needs a reason to be there, and the animatronics need a reason for the guard to be dead. Now, in the games we know why the guard sticks around for 5 nights, because if he or she didn't, then the game would have 0 longevity, and I know that MatPat from Game Theory has done some excellent videos breaking down the mythos, but you cannot go with the it's all a dream theory that he purports, because that would be an incredibly cheap trick for a movie to pull. The consensus surrounding the animatronics is that they are possessed by the spirit of children who were killed at the restaurant, so let's run with that idea. Maybe the security guard is a parent who got a job there so they can find out the circumstances of their child's death, but let's not forget that maybe the pre-title sequence should have the previous security guard getting killed off by the animatronics, because that shows why there is now a vacancy and also demonstrates that these animatronics are a real threat, otherwise the audience would have no frame of reference. Okay, so an overhauling and motivation for our protagonist is absolutely essential in a movie adaptation. Now, the setup for the game works because we are filling in the place of the main character as the player, but for a movie, that same logic can't and won't apply. We have a main character who is there to find out what happened to their deceased or missing child, who we can assume is inhabiting one of the creepy costumes, which brings us nicely to our next topic, the execution of the animatronics. If Warner Brothers does not approve the funding for actual animatronics for this big screen adaptation, I will facepalm so hard that even the person sitting next to me will feel the concussion. There is no need to use CGI for these creatures, because not only will they probably look terrible, as horror films do not tend to have big enough budgets for computer generated creations, but these animatronics have a very real basis in reality. They're essentially robotic attractions at American fast food restaurants, so you just need to recreate those. Animatronics have come a very long way since movies like Gremlins or Jurassic Park, with better looking robots at cheaper prices because of developing technology. Plus, having real life and tangible versions of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and maybe even Golden Freddy, depending on the needs of the narrative, will give Warner Brothers something to show at press events or conventions. Seriously, having real life versions will do wonders for promoting a movie like this. Then you have to talk about how you would film these things. With the exception of death animations and the occasional brief glimpse, we never really see these things move. Due to the budget limitations and the design conceits of the video games, they're pretty much static on the video feeds and only move when the player doesn't see them. So So do you film them like that in the movie, kinda like the Weeping Angels in Doctor Who? Now that would be an interesting way to tease them for the first 2 acts, but at some point you've got to have some movements from them, even if it's just a shifting eye from them every so often. At some point in the escalating tension that is the structure of a horror movie, you've got to have them move at some point, but that can probably be reserved for the 3rd and final act. But you can still toy around with the unmoving animatronics when they're being observed. Here's a quick digression. When Five Nights at Freddy's 3 came out, I watched a Let's Play from Pro Jared. If you're not watching Pro Jared, then please fix that. You can find his playthrough in the description below. But there's a great moment in that Let's Play when the lone animatronic in that game, Springtrap, is looking through the security office window at the player. Motionless and with a static face, he is impossible to read. Now, maybe it's just me, but wouldn't that make an awesome scene in a movie? The security guard is getting frightened out of his or her mind, tries to call for help through the phone or something, then looks up from his or her desk and sees Chica staring at him or her through the window. Who knows, it might even be an emotional moment if we go through the plot idea from earlier on that this security guard is trying to find their child, and it turns out that they are in the Chica costume. Maybe Chica was his or her daughter's favourite animatronic. See, there's a lot of ideas that you can play around with thematically and visually, which is why despite the trite gameplay, Five Nights at Freddy's is ripe for a movie adaptation. So what else could you include in a movie? Well, there's the phone guy, and while the game theory videos purport him to be the original child killer, you can mix things up for the movie where he could be a source of exposition and knowledge for the security guard. Who knows, he could even play both roles as a mentor and a villain, as maybe he was the one who killed the children. But if that was the case, then why would the animatronics want to kill the security guard and stuff them in a suit? See, these are narrative workarounds you'd need to figure out in order to translate this material. Also, if you're going to take the title literally and set the movie over the course of 5 days, you've got to do something to mix up the pacing. You can't just do 5 minutes at the restaurant, 5 minutes outside, 5 minutes at night, 10 minutes in the day, and do that 5 times until the climax, because that would just get repetitive and the audience would not be able to get caught off guard in order to be scared by a horror film. But you can still use the daytime portions to flesh out the story and our main security guard character. As for the rest of the production aspect, I can imagine budgeting this movie at maybe $1 or $2 million maximum, rent out an actual fast food restaurant for 2 weeks and film in there, or maybe even build a set of one if you have any specific requirements from the script. If you did that, then you would be able to control the lighting better and the storage of the animatronics, while also saving on transport and insurance. Oh yeah, FYI, making movies requires a lot of paperwork like that, and a lot of pre-production planning. Trust me, I know. So you get an unknown cast, spend a good amount of money on animatronics, don't skimp on that, prioritise a cinematographer because the lighting and mood will either make or break this adaptation, while also getting a sound designer that has worked on films with mechanics because, you know, they are animatronics after all. Maybe someone like Shannon Mills from Iron Man, or Peter J. Devlin from Transformers. As for the music, I'd say get Robin Kudert. After Maniac and Horns, it's clear that this guy is a horror movie force to be reckoned with musically. So keep the movie short at around 90 minutes, and in terms of the movie's ending, it will depend on how desperate Warner Brothers will be to milk this franchise for sequels, in terms of how much closure the characters are given, the fate of the animatronics, and whether or not the real culprit for the death of the children is killed or defeated. You could do what the games did and make a prequel and then a sequel that takes place a decade after the first, but that's up to the studio. Personally, the route I would take is that on the final night, the man who killed all 5 children, including our protagonist child, who now haunts the animatronics, gets cornered in the restaurant and attempts to hide in an empty suit, but just like at the end of 3 for the hidden ending, the joints of the suit seize up and he gets crushed inside the suit, with his body being trapped forever. With the culprit gone, the spirits of the children are laid to rest. You could even set up this conflict between the child killer and the children during flashbacks to when the killings happened, if you wanted to expand the runtime. Whether or not the restaurant closes down after that ending, or the corpse of the killer stays inside the suit and inadvertently entertains the children of the restaurant, are both viable endings, but you would need to incorporate common sense, such as why no one would notice a corpse inside a suit, and if someone did notice, why did no one say anything? These narrative gaps can work in a highly interpretive video game like Five Nights at Freddy's, but for a mainstream horror movie, the audience might need a bit more hand-holding. I'm not saying to explain everything, but logic needs to be utilised here. In the game, closing the door uses up power, which goes against every single piece of logical reasoning in the world, but we accept it because it necessitates the gameplay. In a movie, that logic won't fly. Also, let's not overcomplicate things in the first installment if this is to be a movie franchise. Keep it simple in terms of scale and the number of animatronics. Only have one restaurant, just leave it with the main 5 animatronics and ignore the puppet, Mangle, the phantom animatronics, etc. You can bring those in later, maybe have the puppet or Mangle in one of the corners of the room so that Cinema Blend can make some clickbait articles about it in order to promote the movie and stuff like that, but for the first installment, just keep it straightforward when it comes to the focus. Also, in the game, it's suggested that a lot of the events take place in a dream or in hallucinations. Yeah, Warner Brothers, no matter what happens, don't do that. Also, don't do found footage. Yeah, you can use the security tapes as a device and maybe one or two scares, but do not incorporate shaky cam, handheld found footage. Don't have a stupid group of teenagers go into an abandoned Freddy Fazbear's Pizza with a handheld camera and then they get killed off one by one and that's the found footage movie. No, don't do that. That shit is just the worst. The worst. Not to mention, found footage means that you don't have to incorporate an ending. It means you can cut corners for character arcs and growth. It's just lazy as hell, and that's a discussion for another time. So there we go. Those are some of the main points, but that's just what I would want to do for a Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Hey Warner Brothers, if you like any of these ideas, then you can always get in touch. I'll write something up for you, eh? Eh? Anywho, what do you guys and girls think? How would you make a Five Nights at Freddy's movie? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you for listening to me ramble on for a while about this potential movie, while also watching me badly play the first game. And if you liked what I had to say, then be sure to subscribe to keep updated on whenever I release a new video. Hit that like button because it really helps me out. You can follow me on Twitter at Trilbee Reviews, visit my website trilbee.com to read my reviews of the latest movies, or you can financially support my content by pledging to my Patreon for exclusive perks and rewards. I'll see you guys next time. Boo! Jump scare!
Trilbee.